Hello, and thank you for joining us. My name is Elizabeth Larison. I'm the Director of Programs at apexart. I'm sitting here with Gitaa, who is our most recent New York City Fellow who is visiting here from Nairobi in Kenya. Hi, Mora.
Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you.
How are you? So you have about, I think tomorrow is your official 30th day of your 30-day fellowship program. We're on day 29.
hmm
How are you feeling right now?
Thank you first of all for inviting me for the fellowship. Um, my state of mind, I'm excited. I'm excited that I'm about to finish my fellowship, but then at the same time, I'm also humbled that you guys were able to invite me over for this residency. Um, I've taken it quite a bit, quite a lot, and I'm excited to be going back home too
Mm-hmm.
because my cultural integration and sort of immersion has had a great impact on me. And I'm thinking about it a lot, and I'm thinking of what I'm going to take back home with me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I'm really like excited
What are
about
you?
it all.
What things are you thinking about in terms of the cultural immersion, or what's affected you so far that you're
Um,
thinking about?
One aspect of the fellowship was the volunteer
Mm-hmm.
aspect, but I feel that in this country, in the U.S., you have a very big culture of volunteerism and giving and
Mm-hmm.
donations and where I have volunteered, like at the food pantry and soup kitchens, I feel that it's an integral part of U.S. culture and that it's maybe inculcated in somebody when they're growing up, when they're young, when they're in college,
Mm-hmm.
to be giving back to society a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I see that we have a difference in the way we give, like in our country, because like when I've gone to like a food kitchen or a soup kitchen or a food pantry, I realize that the giving here is different in that people give out what they might even be needing in their own homes at that time.
Mm-hmm.
They give out fresh food, they give out goods that are not broken,
Mm-hmm.
and to me that is different, and it's different from my culture and my country, because you find that when it comes to donations, like in my country, sometimes people give what is broken. People
Mm-hmm.
give what they think that, oh, I can't use this, I don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
But here it's different.
Mm-hmm.
People give something that is even valuable so that it can help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So that has had a big impact on me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think that New York in particular is lucky and well organized in that it has a lot of different volunteer networks that are easy to tap into. I don't know that every US city is so good with like New York Cares, as you probably realized, is one
Yeah.
of our we find a lot of activities through them, and there's some good umbrella organizations to organize and make things happen for sure. Um, but yeah, that's really interesting. Do you volunteer back home at all?
Um, I do volunteer. Like I volunteer with the Penn International,
Mm-hmm.
but with our Penn Kenya Center,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a honorary vice president, and I help out with the women's committee.
Mm-hmm.
But my volunteer aspect is from the admin
Mm-hmm.
part of it, and I've really like never like volunteered out there like places like helping out with the vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
because we also don't have a lot of those in my country. So you find me mostly in the back office, in admin, in grants management.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but I think I'm going to try and change that.
You don't have a lot of volunteer opportunities to help vulnerable people, or there are not a lot of vulnerable populations? What do you?
We have a lot of vulnerable people, but then the opportunities to volunteer are not many,
Mm.
and the organizations are not that many.
Okay.
So that's another learning experience that I'll be taking back home with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of international NGOs like doing stuff, or is that not so
Yes,
prevalent in
we do.
Nairobi?
We do have a lot of NGOs doing stuff, but you find that most of these NGOs are working from the point of internship and not volunteership.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a big difference there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I guess I'll jump back to the program a little bit. So for 30 days, we've asked you not to do any creative writing, not to do any practical life things like what you would do back home. I know that you're in a academic program right now, for example, so no school, no work, and we ask you to follow kind of blindly our schedule of activities. Some people start out on that type of program or that on our program and are a little skeptical about what they're doing. Other people kind of just jump in and seize it. How would you describe your approach to our program and how it changed or didn't change throughout the 30 days?
I found that my approach was to take one day at a time. Because it was, I love the idea of not knowing like what was coming next. Because you will give me a schedule for maybe 2 or 3 days, at most a week, but then I will not know what was going to come the following week. So I guess I just jumped in at the deep end, yet at the same time I took it one day at a time. But it's been exciting. It's been like revealing a secret and waiting and having an exciting event today, and tomorrow having an even more intriguing event.
Was it stressful?
Oh, stressful. I think I'll use the word, it was hectic. It was hectic and intense. But at the same time, I realized that if it wasn't intense and hectic, I might have missed out on many other opportunities. So it had to be intense because we only have 1 month.
Right.
Yeah. But I found it very, I can't call it stressful, but then the up and down, the intense part, the being hectic, I loved it actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of people, we know it's very busy. We know it's really demanding, especially as you're getting kind of your feet underneath you in a new place. But we feel the same way, that it's only a month. It's much better to actually, in a lot of ways, that's how New Yorkers live their lives too. Yeah. Things are just, you kind of fit it all in. You go from one thing to the next, and you make things happen.
Yeah, it's a very vibrant culture and city, and everybody just rushing about, and yeah, it is.
Is it a similar pace of life as Nairobi, or do you feel it's, because I know you said Nairobi's kind of the fast-paced international city of Kenya as compared to some others, but
I can make some comparisons between New York City and Nairobi City, because Nairobi also, people are very hectic and they're always up and down. They're always rushing from one point to the next, and it's almost like at 50-50 with New York, almost. I think the difference with New York and Nairobi is that is the transport system. The transport system here is very much organized. It's very organized and very, like the subways. You always know where you're going to get your transport. Is always running on time, and if it's not running on time, then there are either announcements to that effect, and so that's the difference. Because if Nairobi, if something breaks down or there's something, you don't really know what's happening. So that is the big difference, the transport issue.
Right.
Yeah, we still have like a long way to go.
I feel like some New Yorkers would say that we have a long way to go too, but it's true. Things are generally functional, though there are more than on more than one occasion I'll be on my way to work and there'll be no signs that the trains are rerouted until I find out I'm going. But no, it's just, if you don't have much public transportation to come here, yeah. Did you find that you were more interested in going out because you knew that you had transportation options? Or how does that affect you back home, I guess? Those kinds of...
Yeah, like back home sometimes, it might be a bit stressful, but if you're an Nairobian, then you find that you are used to the pace, you are used to the breakdowns, and also the exciting parts too. So just go with the flow. Yes, just go with the flow. And the good thing also with here is that it might be hectic, or the program might be stressful, as you say, but I think it comes down to learning how to use the subway, learning how to use Google Maps, and to be able to get your destination on time. And yes, I think that's basically it. Someone else might find it stressful, and I might find it hectic or intense, but I think it boils down to knowing your directions, knowing how to deal with the subway and maybe the trams, and knowing how to get on the bus on and off. Yeah.
Did you find, or I guess, so we know you're pretty busy. Did you miss doing your creative writing, or did you find that you were thinking about it even though you were doing all these things? Was it hard for you to break away from those types of habitual familiarities?
I think it wasn't hard for me to break away because, as I say, the program is very intense and hectic. So by the time I'm back, when I leave in the morning and when I'm back at the apartment, it's maybe around 9 or 10, I'm so exhausted. I don't even think about my writing. so, so I think for me, the break, I think it was okay. It was fine. I didn't think about my writing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a good thing because after a whole month of not doing it,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll have a fresh perspective of what to do next or where I am with my current work, work in progress.
That's what we hope to.
Yes.
What did you do? I guess I'll ask that question later. I want to talk about some of the activities that you did. You mentioned some of the volunteering and how you enjoyed that. Which of the volunteer activities was most surprising or interesting to you?
I think the most okay, as I mentioned, I did volunteer at a soup kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
I found that to be like most of the soup kitchens I've heard about, where people maybe the vulnerable or maybe the homeless come in for breakfast or for lunch or dinner. So I found that
This is with
like
with Food Not Bombs, yeah.
yes, that was for with food not bombs. I found that like the average soup kitchen I know about, but the most interesting that I found was the food pantry. Because at the food pantry, I realized that I think it's why it's called a pantry, that the people will come in and they will actually select what they want. They were like not forced to, like this is what we have, you have to take this. You walk around because we came in and then we arranged the food in groupings of different nutrients and different types of foodstuffs, and the people will come in and choose what they want. And to me that was very new because I didn't know that it happens that way where you can just come in and select what you want, and there was even baby stuff for food for babies. There was like gluten-free food, lactose-free, and so yeah, they will come in and they will select. And to me that was a very different and new idea, and I liked it because they're able to choose what they want.
Right.
You're not like forced to pick this and that's all they have. They have a very big variety and you get to choose. That was interesting.
Yeah. How did I always wanted to ask about the exercising with the elders at the senior center.
Oh, that was yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was yesterday. It was fun. It was very different too because we had a group like for the session where I was volunteering. We had 25 sort of senior citizens, the elderly, and the surprising thing is that they're very enthusiastic about their exercises because they actually moved from a different session and then they came to our session. And
back to back.
Yes, and all the sessions are back to back and they're all about exercising for the elderly. And they seem to be really having fun, you know. And it's good because it keeps them supple and they get to interact with. It's about bringing a community together.
For sure.
But the best thing is also exercising, and they seem to love it. So I joined in and I registered them and then I joined them in the exercises. You know, it was fun. But I found it very, very interesting because they're very enthusiastic because some older people I know they're really not happy about exercise, so these ones were different.
Right.
They
I'm
were
guessing
having
it must call the enthusiastic people to it. 'Cause
Yes.
I know plenty of older people who are
They're
be
very-
the last thing on their
They're
minds.
very enthusiastic and someone was making me laugh and saying that maybe it's because of the lunch, you know. there's a lunch, but then they pay $2 for the lunch. It's it's subsidized. The lunch is $2, but still I don't think it's for the lunch. I think it's just to keep supple and to keep them fresh and energetic because they really seemed enthusiastic. They were really enthusiastic, stretching their muscles and all that, and yeah.
What was
Good.
an activity that you were surprised to see on your schedule? You didn't think of it coming, but suddenly it was there, and you thought, "Well, I've never even considered doing this before."
I can say that was I went for one session of yoga, just the usual yoga, and then I had another surprising one, a form of yoga that I didn't know existed, the aerial yoga, where we get suspended from all these colorful sheets of material. That was really something else, and I stretched my muscles, and that was quite interesting to me because I was challenged by dyslexia. I think I've talked about dyslexia with the therapist Nancy. Myself and my daughter, we were challenged by dyslexia. So I found myself that the our teacher for the aerial yoga actually understood about dyslexia because she noticed that that is a complicated form of yoga. When you tell me to bend my knee inwards, I do it outwards. So I do the opposite sometimes. You tell me left and I do right. So it was it was I found it not really my thing, but then I got into it later, and then I learned a few things. But then the issues of dyslexia come up in such things where you have to do the inwards and outwards, and but it was fun because the tutor understood it. And then she said, yeah, she's had some people who have the challenge because dyslexia, it really never goes away, but you learn to manage it as you grow older. Yeah.
Was it harder with the aerial yoga than the standard yoga, or you were used?
Yes, I found this harder because you find yourself suspended upwards, and sometimes your legs are up in the air, and then you're told to turn your left leg inwards, and then you find yourself looking at the mirror, but then the mirror with dyslexia again, you find yourself doing even worse. You do the opposite, so
right.
But
You're more disoriented.
Yeah, you get disoriented. But at the end, we were just laughing with the tutor because she said that she has someone who was dyslexic, and then it was it was really fun. But I'm older. I'm in my 40s, so for me, it's I'm able to manage my dyslexia. But for younger people or people who are just learning about the dyslexia, it's really difficult sometimes. It's the same with directions. Like on the streets with Google Maps, you take like 10 minutes sometimes looking at the map and then looking at the arrow and following it properly. So it's really the whole program for me with that has been interesting.
A challenge.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then interesting at the same time and a challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
How were the other physical activities that you did? I know you did fencing. You did took some dance lessons.
Fencing again was one of the other exercises which I didn't really take too much. Because
and why not? Yeah.
Because I don't know. The idea of the sword, I don't know. We've just in my country we don't have fencing. We don't have fencing in Kenya, and I've just watched it on the Olympics when we watch it on TV. When we watch the Olympics. So I was surprised to find myself going for a fencing lesson, and but I tried my best, and it was interesting because they had to harness. Any new beginner who came in, you're harnessed by this there's a harness which holds you so that you don't trip over, or so that you don't really reach over too much and maybe hurt your opponent. Because when we were sitting, it was me and another lady who were beginners. When we were sitting and waiting, there was a sort of an altercation between two guys who were fencing, but then they were actually pros, and one of them felt that the other was too aggressive, and he sort of got hurt, and the helmet actually fell off his head.
Wow.
And they actually almost came to a fist fight. They almost fought.
Wow.
They almost fought, and that was interesting because I was sitting with this lady, and they were, oh my god,
this is what we're
just
getting
sitting
into.
over there and waiting. Yes, and it was funny because I think one of them was part of the US fencing team, and something very odd went on because one was a short guy and the other guy was very tall, and this short guy was really very good. He's the one who hit the helmet and it fell off, and the guy said he hurt him. But we didn't see where he got hurt, so it got very, very hilarious. But we tried. Me and the lady were sitting there and we did our best. We tried, and I think it's good to learn a new sport sometimes and not to really hold back a lot. So I gave it my best.
Good.
It wasn't too bad after 10 minutes. And you mentioned dancing. I took some salsa lessons, and that's what I loved. I love salsa. I've never taken salsa lessons before, but I guess being an African, I love dancing, and we love dancing and these beats. Down where I grew up in Mombasa, we have we have a music style called Taarab and Bango. It's almost similar to salsa. So I think that is why I got into it and I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Do you have you ever taken formal dance lessons before?
No, I've never taken formal.
So that was a different sort of.
Yes.
Don't you just dance?
It was different because he had the tutor, but he had a very good partner, so it was good to learn from them. It was good, but I've never had formal dance lessons. Yeah.
the fellowship also has a lot of different sort of intellectual types of activities where you might be learning something new. There are workshops, there are lectures. I know you went to a lecture about women on Wall Street, and you went to a lecture, I believe, at Columbia University about environmental issues.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that, if you found yourself being presented with different fields of study that you've never really considered before, or what types of things that you've learned that have stuck with you in an academic or intellectual sense.
When it comes to some of the lectures that I've attended, one that did that really like stood up was a lecture on equity on Wall Street. That I attended at the museum of Finance. It was quite interesting because it was a journey about women. It was a journey about women and our struggles, especially in breaking the glass ceiling. And I found that very good because it was actually like a house full, and the speakers were really quite good. They were really quite good because it was from their own experience of breaking that ceiling, of getting into Wall Street, getting into equity, getting into finance, because I think you find a lot of women holding back, a lot of women holding back when it comes to finances, when it comes to working in places of finance like Wall Street. But I found it very encouraging because even the women who attended, they had like a lot of questions, wanting to break into finance, wanting to break into Wall Street, and I think you find all these myths about finance and Wall Street being very difficult, but they made it sound like you can do it. And to me, that was very encouraging.
Were a lot of the other people in attendance, do you think that they were already working on Wall Street and they were looking to level up, or that they were like outsiders from the field but wanted to break in?
I found that it was like a 50-50 divide. Some were already on Wall Street, and you can feel like even from their questions that some were already established on Wall Street. But you find that there are some who want to break into the field, who are nowhere near the field, and then there's some who are like at middle career level. So it was like this mix, and we even had university students. So it was a really good mix, and I found it very interesting. Yeah. And then you mentioned about the science lecture over at Columbia University. I've never been like a science geek, but I found it very interesting about when they were discussing about the issues in Bangladesh, and the emissions and all that, and it was again a house full. Maybe it was from the university students, but then again it was a mixture of professionals and students, and again mid-level career people who are interested in science and that field. So I found that also it's like a very big culture here to do with talks and lectures, because you find that most of them, they're usually like house full, and if you're not like pre-registered, you can never get into some of these lectures. So that is something else that I'm picking up on. Like it's a big culture here. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure what if universities here are required to have a certain amount of lectures available to the public, but so many of them do. I mean, they're different than like the closed classes, but it's one of the better resources that we do have here. Just you can jump in on things.
Very interesting, very nice. And I also attended one talk on it was on retirement benefits, how to manage your retirement benefits, but it was for the senior citizens, and I also found that very interesting because it was about how you invest for your future, and if you've already invested, how to keep track of your investments, how to like make them work for you. And I found it interesting because again, the mix of participants were people who were, most of them were the elderly, but some of them were people who have not invested very wisely, and they wanted to like get back and do it properly. And some of them had invested very wisely, so it was like this interesting. It was this interesting mix, and some who had not even started investing yet, they were maybe gone to their 60s. So it was really quite interesting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I found some people, some of them talking about, I think it's something you call 401k. Yeah, so I didn't really get that very well because I want to read more about it. Yeah, and I found that some of them also didn't really understand it too well. So it was like a lesson for some of them too, like a new lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what sorts of if the retirement sort of structure program of savings, the options that are available in the States, I wonder like what's standard for around the world, if they're really like restricted country to country, or if it's, yeah, I don't know.
Like in Kenya, I find it very interesting because like in Kenya we do have one that is run like by the government. It's called NSSF. NSSF. That's a National Social Security Fund. It's where you get to pay in something every month, whether you are employed or you are self-employed. You have the option of having a part of your salary deducted, and it goes into your. It's like an investment fund for your retirement. It's like a retirement benefit. And then we have another one called the Retirement Benefits Authority, RBA. It's also the same thing. Like you get to deduct something from your salary or do it voluntary for your retirement in old age. So we have the NSSF and we have the RBA.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have some parallel things here with Social Security and IRAs, but
Yeah,
they might be different.
Though a lot of people complain, the ones who've retired, that it's very little. They say that the pension is very little, like it's not enough. But I think it's the same. I think in most countries that it's not something that is too big, like monthly. It's almost like a stipend or an allowance for some people.
Exactly. Yeah. I know you explored quite a bit around the city. You probably saw lots of sites that you didn't associate with New York City. Certain views or landscapes or even activities that you don't associate with New York City. But I guess I wanted to ask, were you surprised by any sites or things that you saw, or was your vision of New York that you had before you came, was it largely reified in all the stuff that you did?
I think even when I was coming over here, I think like most people, I have this maybe I have this outlook of New York City, being like this skyscraper city, this vibrant city, with just these tall buildings and a very diverse place with beautiful buildings and just beautiful people everywhere, and like a fun place. But then in exploring the city, I came to learn that like most other cities or like most other countries, it's we have different landscapes, we have different places, we have different social classes, and yes, and I saw that there's a difference. We have the part like the vibrant part of the city, like the city center itself, which is very vibrant with the skyscrapers and all that, and then there are also different parts of the city that are different, like from the Bronx and like parts of Queens, which are different, and which are also, like, I can say that some parts are like they're sort of balkanized into, I'm trying to get the right word, like they're sort of balkanized into, like you can find places which are predominantly Indian, and then you find other places which are predominantly like Latino and Spanish, and you find some places which are predominantly like the African American side of the city, and yes, and that was quite it was quite interesting. Yes, because I think when most of us come into the city, we think that it's just the center of New York City and there's nothing else, but maybe what we see from like the movies or the documentaries and all that. But I get to see all these different places, and it was quite interesting.
Yeah, that's one of the things we really try to ensure with the schedule is that you're not just going to be in Midtown the entire time, or there's a lot of diversity in Manhattan, like on the streets, but not in the neighborhoods, so to speak. So going to Jackson Heights versus South Bronx versus different parts of Brooklyn is one of the things that it's one of the things that I love most about New York City, is that you have all these different communities and different things to learn through them.
Yeah, I did. Like I found that I went to, is it Jackson Heights, which is Spanish, a lot of
Washington Heights, is that in Manhattan?
Yeah. And you find that even on the streets, like when you meet someone and maybe you're asking a direction to somewhere, you're there, but maybe you cannot find it very well, you find that most of them tell you that I don't speak English, and then they speak to you, they speak back in Spanish, to you. So so that was quite interesting. It was interesting. Yeah.
And have you heard any of your other mother languages that you speak? Have you heard them around, like Kiswahili and I forget what other languages that you speak, but
I've,
did you hear them around the
yes,
city at all? And where?
I've not heard Kiswahili at all in the city, but I did get to meet some Kenyans when I went to the Quaker church meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I met some Kenyans there who fellowship there, and then they usually have like a meeting for an hour of Kenyans who live around that area.
Mm-hmm.
So it was quite interesting. That was the first time I heard people talk in Kiswahili.
Ah.
Yes, it was quite interesting.
Were you familiar with Quakerism before? Is this like a big thing, or just like a niche of Kenyans, do you think?
In Kenya, we do have Quakers, but I've never like gone to any meeting of theirs. This was my first time here,
Mm-hmm.
and I found their form of worship very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the way they believe in communing with God first for like a whole hour, just keeping quiet and just sort of meditating,
Mm-hmm.
and that was strange to me and very new,
Mm-hmm.
because I've never attended any Quaker meeting.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, how did you find the other sort of spiritual or religious activities? You also went to the Buddhist Vihara, you did a Buddhist meditation,
Yeah.
and I guess you could consider the Society for Ethical Culture as sort of, it's an anti-religion, but it still has a lot of tenets that form it similarly.
I think the most interesting to me was the Society for Ethical Culture,
Mm-hmm.
because I found I attended this session,
Mm-hmm.
which is run by a group of ladies. They call it the Dutch Cafe. It was very interesting because I found myself like exploring different philosophical aspects of life, because they believe a lot in talking about death, and to me, like from my African culture, people hardly talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like talk about death. It's like taboo.
Mm-hmm.
It's like taboo, and many African cultures, like in Kenya, we are 45 tribes, but you find that like almost all of the 45 tribes are very averse to talking about death.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people who don't even believe in writing wills. They believe that if they write a will, if they discuss death in any way, you are inviting death into the homestead.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, just sitting there and talking about death, it was very strange.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it was a learning experience, because we even had some participants who have gone through near death experiences,
Mm-hmm.
which they shortened to NDA, and there was this lady who said that she died and then came back, but she was in a coma. She was trying to commit suicide, and then she didn't die. So she said she went to the other side, and God spoke to her and told her to come back because she had a lot to do. And through the experience, because she was going through something traumatic, and that is when she tried to end her life. And she took like 400 pills out of a whole dosage of pills, and then she almost died, and she was in this coma. So when she saw this sort of flashing light, and then she came back to like earth, and she found herself in the hospital with her sister by her side, and she was waking up from the coma.
Mm-hmm.
So there are two people at the meeting who have gone through NDA, this near death experience, and it was very weird and very eerie to me. I found it very. I never thought I could just sit in something like that. It was very fascinating at the same time. I found it very almost scary.
Did it change your perspective at all on it, or were you still thinking that these people are crazy for talking about death and like, please put it away?
I found it very. I think I was also encouraged, because I was not the only new person there who came in to listen. I was actually accompanied by one of the artists you linked me up with, Star Org, and it was very interesting, because also to him he'd never been to the ethical culture and this death cafe. And then we also had a Russian lady who came in, who lives in New York, but she's never gone to it, and some other younger people, and because most of the participants were elderly, and so I found it very. I think I was comforted, because we were like 6 or 7 of us who had never been to this death cafe before, and we were all there to explore and to see these different philosophical views of life and death, and we talked quite a bit about it, about these taboos, about how you commune with the death and with the dead, and how you how you get to mourn when people have died, and even the issue of like I shared an experience of like some African cultures, we believe in washing the dead bodies ourselves, so that you like some members of the family wash the body themselves and not the like the undertaker, so that you like bond in those last minutes before the person is buried. So it was a new experience to me. It was new. Yeah, and I found myself like thinking about it later on. Yeah, but it was new and weird. Yeah.
I know that following that you saw a performance, and you've seen a couple of different types of performances here. There different types of musical styles, theater, dance.
Yeah.
Was everything kind of par for the course of what you would expect or what you'd experienced, or was there any sort of performance that surprised you or stayed with you?
I think the performances they're sort of like very new to me, because the organization, what was that name, the organization which organizes the dance performance I went to,
Movement research.
the experiment, yes, the experiment, the experiential with all these new forms of dance styles, and I liked it because it was very different, like just someone walking around the stage, but like miming a live event for the whole day, but like not even talking to the audience, but then just walking around the stage and pretending like he's going about his day for like a whole 20 minutes, which is very interesting. I found that very interesting, and a dance performance like where someone is using like these hoopla hoops, like these loops for the whole 15 minutes of a dance style without dropping the hoop, and it reminded me of my childhood, but then we will not do it like for 20 minutes without dropping it. So I found that very very exciting at the same time, and yeah, the dance styles are just out of this world, and they're very new, how they combine acting at the same time with dancing, and I found that very nice. Yeah, that's good.
Do you think you would be able to find that type of dancing performance in Nairobi if you looked hard enough?
Yes, in Nairobi we have some new dance companies coming up, and they're also experiential. They're trying to experiment and come up with new dance styles. So I believe I can find some. I can find some if I really look hard enough. Yeah, I think I'll go back and try to get these contemporary dance places and see what we have, what new things we have in Nairobi.
So you want to go see more dance?
I believe I can try to seek out more dance. It's exciting. I found it nice.
What other types of things do you think you're kind of in, like, you're going home tomorrow? What types of things, if any, and it's okay if there's nothing, but is there anything that you think you'll bring back with you, something that you'll look for, whether it's a certain type of information about a certain topic or participating in a certain kind of activity?
I think the most that I can like go back home with that has really like stayed with me, it's how the society here, maybe it's New York, that is very vibrant in giving back to the vulnerable, is how you take care of your vulnerable here. Like an example of New York cares. New York cares seem to be very vibrant. They seem to have all these all these ways of giving back, be it the soup kitchen, be it the pantry, the food pantry. But one that I really liked, and I think I would love to maybe think about it some more, was the Power My Learning, initiative. I think I really loved that because this organization, they get donations from they get all these donations of computer parts from individuals. They also get these donations from organizations. Maybe someone gives a monitor, someone gives a keyboard, someone else gives a mouse, and this organization, they sort of like collect all these parts and then they clean them up. They clean them up and then they put them in. They assemble a whole computer that is not functional and almost like brand new, and then they put the computers in sets of like 10, and these 10, like a set of 10 computers goes to one school in which we use the word in underserved communities. You find that this school, which like maybe had no computer at all, they have like 10 computers. So that to me was it was very nice. It was very encouraging, and I liked it. And even talking to the volunteers there, they said they've had a very it's very fulfilling. It's very fulfilling when you go to a school where some of these children have never even seen a computer. Some don't even have it at home. They don't have a laptop. They have no iPad at home, and some of the schools have no laptops at all. And in my country, like in Kenya, we have a lot of schools which have no computers. Though the government is like the current administration, the Uhuru Kenyatta administration, they have this laptop project for primary schools, but then they're trying to roll it out, but then it's slow, and it's not going to reach all schools. It's very slow. Like they're starting out with one school in one county, and I think I've not heard of an initiative like Power My Learning back in my country. So I think like back in Nairobi, it will be a good thing for someone to try, just setting up this small organization and then just collecting these donations and then cleaning them up and then giving them back to schools which don't have. I think that was one of my best moments. I loved it, and I really worked hard at helping clean those computers up. Yeah, that was I liked it.
I'm glad to hear it. I wasn't sure
Yeah.
how much. I mean, I figured there would be a small group of volunteers that you would be learning about the project through, rather than just cleaning it. But
Yes,
yeah.
the volunteers were there. They really gave me good feedback about how sometimes they check these 10 computers to school, and then the children they just cry. They're like they've never seen a computer before, and then they're so happy. So I felt encouraged about that, because and there's some volunteers who've been going there for like 5 years. Though they have their jobs, but then like over even on weekends,
That's nice.
they come when they have a day off to come in, because they also need experts like us, like some of the volunteers, we're just cleaning the mouse and cleaning the keypad, but then there's the programming aspect where you have to like make the computer functional and start working well. So it was very, very interesting. I found that very good.
Were you surprised to hear about, or I guess, learn so much about New York City's vulnerable populations?
Yes, I was surprised, because I didn't expect like the homeless to be like so many. I'm finding them so many. It's not like we also have a lot of homeless people in Nairobi and in Kenya in particular, but I found it very. It was like we like I came with the mindset like I don't think I'll find like a lot of homeless people in New York City, but I went to on one of my schedules on my itinerary. I went to this organization, the ACE, which works in getting people off the streets and getting them back into employment, and the statistics I learned were it's quite high. Like there are more than 60,000 homeless in New York alone, and I found that very high, because like when I'm like on the subway, I shared with Tiny, I think it's the director of programs at ACE, who told me about the statistics. I was sharing with him how, like when you're on the subway, like maybe early in the morning, going on my schedule and going to the different events I'm supposed to be going to, I don't like find a lot of homeless on the subway, but then in the evening, like late at night when you're coming back home, like at around 9 or 10, you find a lot of them in the subway. Like some of them are sleeping in the subway, and that is when you realize that there are quite many. Because like during the day you can find people panhandling on the streets like in Nairobi, but then at night you don't know like where they sleep, but you find many of them like in the subway sleeping. So I found that there are really like many. Though I did get to learn also from Tiny that there are shelters for the homeless, but then they're not able to like serve everybody.
Right.
And yeah.
It's also hard because a lot of people, if you go live in a homeless shelter, if you go to stay there for a couple of nights, if you have a pet, you can't take the pet with you, and so or you can't bring certain belongings with you, and so it restricts a lot of people. And there's the homeless situation in New York is at a high right now. I don't know if it's at an all-time high, but it's been increasing over the past few years, and it's something that even I see on my day-to-day walking around the streets. I notice more people as well.
And then also something else that we also shared with Tiny, that because I was talking about our vulnerable in Nairobi, like our homeless in Nairobi, and then we were comparing like the homeless shelters here, and then like what we have back in Nairobi. And then I was sharing with Tiny that we have like homes for children, but then for children like under like 18, 16, 15 to like 0 months, but then those are very few. They are very few, like they are very like overstretched, and then we like have homes which are very few again for the elderly, like the senior citizens. But then we have this demograph in the middle. We have a big demograph in the middle, like from 18 to around 50, and if you're homeless, then you have like nowhere to go. So that is something else that is also good, like to take back home, like an organization like ACE, what it does, like getting people off the street and training them in skills and getting them back into the workplace, in the workforce again. So it was quite interesting, the comparisons. Yeah, but I know we have like homeless everywhere, but yeah, there are ways to try and help. Yeah.
And how did you see, I guess, the other types of opportunities here, cultural opportunities? Did you get a sense of the art world or the literary world while you were here?
Yes, I got a sense of the art world, especially through the museums, because I think I went to like most of the museums around on my itinerary, and the art world is really thriving, and I think it's the encouragement of how like this countries in the West, they really appreciate artists, they really appreciate like writers and art in general, because you find like in the museums they're like special exhibitions and showings, just like for film, for theater, for new acts which are coming up, and I found that very interesting, that you can have like a whole showing in a museum just for art, maybe it's sculpture, and then there's even one for children, like one of the museums I went to. There's a whole section just for children's art from the schools who've painted and done, and there was an exhibition for children, and I found that very, very interesting, the different cultural aspect of appreciating art and culture. It was very interesting to me, and yeah.
Different than in Nairobi?
Yeah, it's slightly different because we have museums, but then we don't have a lot of exhibitions. There are not many, and if we do have exhibitions, they are like far and few in between. They are not very many. And then if you do find an exhibition going on, you find that mostly it's on the archaeology side, and maybe a little bit of the art side, but the art side is not too vibrant when it comes to the museums and the showings and exhibitions. But here it's like every other night there's something going on, which is very vibrant. It's a very vibrant culture here.
Do many of your peers back home, have they been to New York? Have they engaged in any types of programs like this? Or is it going to be sort of strange for you to return, having done and seen all of this?
I've as I said when I was coming over, I've never really like been on a fellowship or a residency, but most of my peers have been to writers' fellowships. They've been to writers' fellowships and residencies, but then not one like this one. This is a bit unique because the apexart one is a bit unique because I get to like switch roles and go into a different creative form, and I get to like shelve my writing for the month, for a short while. So this is completely new. Even as I go back, it's like new because I'm not like engaged in any writing activities. Though I did get to an event yesterday night for writers because someone invited me. Then I said, "Oh, I have an hour," so I went for that event. It was quite interesting. It was the Pen America Literary Awards, so it was quite interesting, and I saw how people are so enthusiastic about literature because it was like a house full again.
Oh wow!
So yeah.
Where was it?
It was at the new, not too far from the apartment, at the new school. Yes, at the new school. The new school.
Very nice.
That was quite interesting. But overall, the appreciation for arts and culture is at a different level here. It's quite high. Yeah.
We've another part of your schedule you mentioned briefly is the therapy sessions. We've found that the therapy is really can be really new for people, but or even if they're familiar with therapy, that it provides a sort of valuable aspect of the program. And without being specific, because your sessions are your sessions, did this help you? Do you feel like orient yourself in the city? Was it something that was sort of interesting for you, or do you have any thoughts on it in general?
The therapy session, okay, initially when the first week I was there, the first day or the second day, I found it strange that there was a therapy session on my schedule, and I think I went into it with half-heartedly, because I didn't know what I was going to do in a therapy session. Though I've been before, I've seen a therapist before for some other issues when I was a bit younger, but for this one I was like, I'm on a residency. Why am I going for why am I going on a into a therapy session? So I was half-hearted, like in Kenya we say shingo upande. Shingo upande means I was like, my neck was like, oh, why am I going? Why am I going for
Not
this?
so
Like
sure about it.
yes, half-hearted. So I did go. I did go for the first session, and actually it was nice because I found that as I talked to the therapist Nancy, a lot of issues do come up, like my challenges with dyslexia. They actually came up in our last two sessions because we found ourselves talking about the sense of direction sometimes. Like when you see me being late for like 5 or 10 minutes, sometimes I confuse the direction somehow. Instead of falling right, I went left and all that. So Nancy was asking me about if there's something I think I should do about that. But then I told her that I've been here for this whole month, and I think it's something that I can write about. It's something I can write about, like a memoir. I've been thinking of doing a childhood memoir for like a few months now. But it was so much confirmed now because of these sessions, because I realized that I can write something about my challenges with dyslexia, because I was able to overcome it. Though when I was growing up, in the 70s and the 80s, in Kenya it was like almost unheard of. Nobody knew about it, and I was never even like evaluated for it. But now it's opening up, and like my daughter, I helped her overcome it myself. I taught about it, and she's a graphic designer and animator. She's artistic, and she's known how to deal with it. But because I'm also trying to help other children here and there, I realized that it's something that I can write about, and I feel that these sessions have helped me to think about other things, like how can I help others who are challenged by dyslexia. Because even in Nairobi right now, it's not like here where, like in the US or UK or Europe, where dyslexia, the evaluation is going on at every other maybe school. But in our public school system in Kenya, it's unheard of. Teachers are not sensitized about dyslexia. It's only the rich parents, the upper middle, actually not even the middle class, it's only the upper middle class who are able to have their children evaluated. And I think we only have like one tiny center in Nairobi who are able to talk about dyslexia and help your child, but then you pay a very hefty fee for it. So I think going back from this fellowship, I think I'll sit down and think about writing something about dyslexia, and how just maybe a simple book, how to overcome it and how to have fun with it at the same time, because I believe that dyslexia is a gift. Because most people who are challenged by dyslexia are very creative and are very artistic, because they always think in pictures and not in algebra and equations. Because we find us and figures and algebra equations, algorithms and formulas, they don't really work with us. But words and pictures and paintings and anything creative, it works very well. So this session brought that out a lot for me.
Nice.
And I feel I can do something about it.
Very good. We'll look forward to your memoir.
that was I liked it.
What did you ended up doing on your free days? You had about 3 free days.
Yes. To me, my free days were a bit about exploring the trinket shops, the souvenir shops, and buying a few things for family and friends back in Nairobi. And that is most of what I did, because my schedule actually covers like most of the 5 boroughs. I've covered my schedule. So for myself, I took that day to be for myself and to go out and to explore a little bit, like the shops, and to see what souvenirs I can get from New York City. And that was largely what I did.
What was the coolest souvenir that you got?
I think the coolest souvenir I got was I think everybody wants like the Statue of Liberty. A lot of people want that. A lot of people want the statue. So I got a few of those, and a few of like the key holders, which say that if you give someone a key holder, and the Statue of Liberty, they're happy with that, because they always have the key holder with them. So
it's practical.
It's very practical, and I love those two things, the statue and the key holder. But I'm still going to explore again today and tomorrow. So yeah.
You're required to keep a journal, which you did pretty religiously, which is great.
Yeah.
How was it keeping the journal different than the writing that you're used to? Was it a challenge for you, or was it a sort of welcome activity?
The journal was different. Yeah, it was welcome. I liked it, but the journal was a bit different because I used to blog. I have a website. I used to blog for like 2-3 years, and then I took a break because of the current writing I'm doing, and then I'm back in school. So I've not been blogging for quite a while. But it was interesting. The journal was interesting because and it was interesting and different because I had to like upload photos to it too, a lot of photos, so that I can give people a pictorial of what I was doing, and it was also different because I was not required like to do a lot of writing in the journal, but more of pictures and more, yeah, as I said, more of a pictorial, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and I'm still going to do some more today.
Okay.
Yeah, for the final week and the final days. Yeah.
And Stephen would say right now that you can post in the journal after your fellowship as well. It's there as long as you want it to post different reflections or experiences.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me that before. All right.
Yeah,
Oh, that's nice.
It's there for you. So
that's good.
The
So
standard.
I can post when I start my memoir on this next year, so I can. Oh, yeah, cool.
As long as it's
That's-
non-promotional and it's not your work, but thinking about, as long as it's like personal and still about your reflections. So
Well, that's a good idea.
there's still time.
All right, that's nice. It's different, and I liked it.
How did you find New Yorkers? How did you? I know you've been to the U.S. before, so you're familiar, and you're also familiar with U.S. culture, as you mentioned, through media largely. But how did you find New York culture, New York people? What you expected? Nicer, meaner?
Okay, what I expected when I came over is, of course, it was a diverse culture, and of course, knowing that this is a very vibrant city, it has all these people. And I was right, because I met all sorts. I think I met everybody here, from different nationalities, many people. But for the most part, I found that New Yorkers are friendly. For most part, I found them friendly, because if you're somewhere and your directions are a bit off, or you maybe are just standing right in front of a building and not seeing it, and for most part, they were, initially you'll find that someone is a bit reluctant or hesitant, but then once you get talking and then they say, they see this person, she knows where she wants to go, she's not out to hurt me or anything, they are mostly friendly. And then they actually get interested. It was very interesting because so sometimes they will find out I had my schedule, and my schedule was scribbled all over, and most of them will actually be interested. They will tell me, I can see you're going to all these places. I was finding it very interesting, and then some will actually start talking to you about it. They say, where are you from? So I will tell them I'm from Nairobi, Kenya, and sometimes they talk for even 10 minutes with me, and he was just going on his own way, and she was going somewhere else. And so that to me was very interesting, and they are friendly overall. I found them very friendly.
Were people more interested in talking to you once they realized that you were from a different country?
Yes.
Yes.
And actually, seeing my schedule, sometimes I had my paper, and then I had this paper, and I'm trying to find something, and then they were very interested. And then they will start asking me about Kenya and about Nairobi. But then when they realize that I'm from Nairobi in Kenya, some will actually say, that is where Obama's father came from, so.
Also true.
Yeah, they'll tell me, Obama's father is from Kenya, and I'll say, yeah. So we'll have a conversation. We'll have a conversation about it, and then...
Minor celebrity.
Yes, and then...
Obama's father.
But it was fun. It was fun. For most part, as I say, I found them friendly. Yeah.
And you said you were following the news while you were here a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been following the news, but to me, what has been outstanding really about the news is about President Trump, wanting to cut the budget for the arts, To me, that was really... because, we hold the US and the Europe and the UK in high esteem when it comes to the arts. Because your culture here, it really upholds culture and art and writers and artists in general. And for most of us, like in our African countries, the funding is really like almost non-existent. Like recognition from the government is almost like at zero. It's like 10%. So we look up to your countries and we try to, to push our governments, to fund us and to fund the arts and to be like the US, to be like the UK. And then, when I'm following the news and then President Trump wants to cut the funding to the arts, I'm like, oh, so I've been following. That has been like the highlight for me.
Were you nervous about coming here with the just different issues surrounding travel bans and like getting in? I mean, obviously you're not from one of the countries that was on the ban, but there's been a lot of in the news about being able to come here on visas even. And
yes, I was thinking about it, but then not too much because I was here last year. As I said, I was in Minneapolis to visit my family and my brother and my sister and my nephews and nieces, and for my brother's wedding. So I had been here as late as December last year. So when I was coming back, I was I did have like misgivings a bit. I was like, oh, they might ask me at at the entry point, like, oh, why are you coming back? You're here recently. But surprisingly, they didn't really like they just looked at it and it was my fellowship and they didn't ask me any other questions. So I pretty much had it easy. I was okay. I didn't really think about it much, but I did think a bit and say, oh, what if they do start asking questions and say, oh, you're just here recently, why are you back to the US? But they didn't ask me anything. So I was happy.
Yeah, I'm glad that you had such a good experience.
Yes,
Did you hear about I think in California there was some sort of conference about commerce with Africa, and there were no Africans able to come because they couldn't actually even get visas.
Yeah, I heard about that, and then I read a little bit about it, and it was really quite disturbing.
Yeah.
It was quite disturbing because it's just about getting arts and books and artists and then artists and the art world and culture across borders. So it's really disturbing.
It is
because they feel like you're targeting artists, and yet maybe the administration is just out looking out for security, but then the artists feel targeted, like you're just trying to block them from coming in for a cultural event. So that is really quite sad. Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, we're at different arts institutions, ours included, looking forward and thinking, we worry about whether how much this will affect what we do. For our program, as we don't pick the people that are nominated for us. So we give up a certain amount of
them.
So there's a certain amount of control that we let go in terms of who even comes to our program, and we hopefully this won't be an issue for much longer, because there's a lot of uncertainty, and like you say, being able to travel for cultural programs and learn and share, there's something invaluable to that.
Yeah, because sometimes you might find that your ticket has actually been paid and there's no refund for it, and then you reach somewhere and you're told that you have to go back, and it's really expensive.
Yeah.
It's,
I've gone through most of my questions here. Sorry to be looking down, but one of my last things I wanted to ask you.
Oh, I enjoyed myself in DC too.
Oh, tell me more. Did you go to the protest?
Yes, I did. I enjoyed myself in Washington. You call it the Capitol. The Capitol. It was quite interesting because I didn't think I'll get a chance like to ever be like near the White House, So,
there you are.
Yeah, so there I was. I found myself outside the White House, and and I took all these photos of the White House, and I shared it, I think, and someone was asking me, what do you think of the White House, on, I think it was Facebook, and and then I said, it's this there's a protest going on, about Free Palestine, and it was quite interesting because there were a lot of people at the protest, and a lot of people are passionate about this issue with the Palestinian people, and there are a lot of people standing in solidarity with them in their quest for this freedom, and I found it interesting because what I found interesting about the protest is the difference in peaceful protests in a country like the US and like in Nairobi. Like in Nairobi, you cannot even get near State House, like for our president, it's called the State House. You can't even get near Parliament buildings or get near State House and like stage a peaceful protest like outside the gate of State House. You will get tear gas, and you'll get so it calls for a lot of democracy and a lot of tolerance, and this is a really big difference. I was like just completely like amazed, because the protest was there. It was just simple, and people were protesting, and they were saying what they wanted. They had their placards up, and they had their talks there. The leaders were there, and it was peaceful. The security was there. It was very tight, of course, but then they finished the protest. The protest went on, and everything was just calm. And there were no disruptions, no tear gas, no nothing, and that's a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, there's I and others are also aware that is becoming endangered. That sort of because there's some laws are looking, or some legislators are looking to pass laws around the country in different areas to fine protesters or make them responsible for the finances of the police that are necessary to guard every protest. So
that is going to.
So and of course, who knows where things are going, but yeah, I'm glad that it was an interesting experience and
it
that
was interesting.
Yeah.
Did you feel the difference?
Did you feel a tension in DC? Is like the political tension palpable when you're there, or as an outsider, was it kind of just not so?
I think because I'm an outsider and I was just going on my schedule, going to the museum for the film, and then just going to the White House, looking at joining in the protest and seeing how the protests are done here, and I think I didn't feel that tension, and I think also because it was just the 2 days, so I didn't really get to really go out there and talk to people and see their feelings and perceive what people are thinking. So I think because of being an outsider, but it was, in the most part, it was calm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything that will immediately change you're returning tomorrow. Is there something that you're going to start doing immediately? I know you've talked about like long-term things that you're interested in, or do you feel any immediate effects from the program?
I think like the immediate thing I'll try and do some research and go out there is I want to go and see like what are we doing like on the ground, like what are we doing like with the vulnerable, what are the organizations doing, because as I said, I hear a lot of most of the NGOs, the very large NGOs, even the small ones, I hear a lot about internship programs, but then I don't really hear a lot about volunteer programs. So I think that is my like my short term, to go and see what opportunities are out there. That will be the first thing I try and search and seek out. Yeah, I might be missing something maybe, so I'll try and check and see what is happening.
Always more to learn.
Yeah. How is?
There's always more to learn.
Yes, there's always more to learn, and a lot, and I might find something I've missed, so I'll go back and see.
Okay. Yeah. That about wraps up the questions I had for you about the program. Do you have any questions or final comments, something you maybe wanted to say that didn't get a chance to?
Overall, I've been happy with the fellowship and the residency, and I've learned a lot. I've soaked in a lot like a sponge, the cultural immersions and the integrations, and I'm all just wondering if you've ever thought of like having if apexart have it in their plans to like have like a longer residency, have a longer fellowship. I think it might be good to like have something that will go on for like 2 or 3 months, and maybe something like that can like
in the same place.
Yes, like in the same place, or maybe even different places. But then like for 2 or 3 months, it might be something to like explore and think about. Yeah.
Interesting. We don't have anything in the works right now. We've largely received a lot of feedback that the fellowship is the right length of time, because there's a point in the fellowship usually where people feel like, oh my gosh, there's so much time left, and then in the next week they feel like, oh my gosh, where'd all the time go? know. So finding the right balance between having enough time so that you feel like you live somewhere, but also being able to actually take time out of your regular life is the other logistical thing. But it's good to know that you could have gone for more.
I think so. Yeah, I might. I think maybe 2 months.
Be careful what you wish for.
Maybe 2 months. It will be good. It will be interesting to like stretch it a little bit. But yeah.
Well, the good news is that you can incorporate elements of the fellowship into your life back home in Nairobi.
Yeah.
You might be surprised, especially since it's such an international city. You might be surprised.
It is.
I would not be shocked if there were aerial yoga classes there, for example.
I know. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like, they're kind of in big cities around, is what I'm finding.
Aerial.
Yeah.
I've not heard of it, but I look for it.
Like I know that they're in Seoul and Phnom Penh, so
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were in Nairobi as well.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, Moraa, it's been a pleasure getting to know you and a pleasure working with you. So thank you, and I hope that you've. I look forward to seeing what you transform from the fellowship into your work.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. I'm happy. I've learned a lot and I've had fun.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, it's our pleasure.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us.